So for tonight, I wanted to come in and really talk about the power of our words. Okay, so you've probably heard the expression that words are spells, and the words we use really build the house that we live in. And it's so true when you think about how much time we spend in our perhaps in our desires, our imagination, and our daydreams, sort of visualizing the life that we want, but perhaps not spending as much time and as much attention as we could be and should be, really focusing on how we talk to ourselves, how we talk about our lives, how we talk about other people, perhaps, but the language that we use. And so words are extremely powerful. Words have vibration, and they really carry the frequency of how you feel. And I've talked about this before when we talk about manifesting. We talk about, we don't manifest what we want, we manifest what we are, right? So how we feel in the moment, the energy that we're carrying, and the language that you use is keeping you in this reality, right? It's keeping you in the frequency that you're in, which is creating the circumstances of your life, right? And so really, my intention as a guide and as a channel is to help people really become aware of the thoughts that they're having, the beliefs that they're holding, both consciously and unconsciously, and the power that they have, that all of us have, to be able to lead ourselves into new circumstances, into different circumstances, better circumstances, healthier circumstances, by really monitoring the use of our language. Okay, and I really want you to be, of course, gentle with yourself and give yourself grace as you're perhaps listening to this video or watching the replay, and you're kind of checking in with yourself to see, how do I really talk to myself about my circumstances? How do I talk to myself about my body, my finances, my relationship, other people, the way the world is? How do I talk to myself about the economy? How do I talk to myself about the price of things? How do I talk to myself about, what's happening in the world, or the powers that be, right? Really noticing, and there's really just two paradigms of consciousness that we can be operating in as human beings. Just to distill it down for you, to keep it very, very simple, we're either speaking in a way that keeps us in fear, or we're speaking in a way that keeps us liberated. Like, I want to say in love. And what I mean by love is not romantic love. What I mean by love is universal love, right? The love that we are, the love that is our birthright, that is our essential essence. It's our natural energy. It's our I want to say it's our original nature, right? To be expressions of love. And so what we've learned throughout childhood is to keep ourselves safe, because throughout this human experience, we've accumulated the evidence that there are things to be afraid of, right? There's things to look out for. There's things to be aware of, or to protect ourselves from, or to defend ourselves against. And so when we step out of this fear-based consciousness, and we start to see the world as more benign, more gentle, more loving, more kind, even just by using the power of your words, you're going to see this fundamental shift in your life, ever so slightly. And of course, it develops and it opens up more so and more so the more you do this practice, right? So really just taking a moment to reflect on the kind of language that you use in your daily life, right? Like, when you're triggered, when you're in a reactive state, are you pausing to check in with yourself and to, work through whatever energy, whatever emotions are coming up for you, so that you can bring yourself back to a place of love, back to a place of inner peace, and really clean up your language. Okay. So keeping in mind that the language you're using is communication with universal intelligence, right? So you're essentially asking for whatever it is that you're communicating. Okay. And so the universe responds to this frequency. It responds to the vibration of your words, which are a reflection of of your frequency, of the energy that you're holding in your body. So if you're living in fear, you're having fear-based thoughts, and you're likely using fear-based language, right? So this is something to really look at. We look at our thoughts, we look at our beliefs, and the easiest access point really is to look at our language and to examine what are some of the languages, what are some of the limitations in my language that are perhaps keeping me stuck in circumstances that are undesirable, or creating defeat before defeat even has a chance to happen in your life. Okay, so it's really, really powerful stuff to look at and to reflect on when we think about the language that we use, when we think about how we talk about ourselves, how we talk about what's possible for us and what we deeply desire. Maybe there's that thing that you think, you say, I can't afford this, or, I'm too old for that, or I'm not smart enough for this, or this doesn't happen for me, or this always is a struggle. That always word keeps us in this loop of creating and manifesting the same circumstances over and over again, until we recognize that we are the ones that are choosing and creating the reality that we're living in based on our frequency. Okay. And so it's really important that we take a good, honest look at ourselves so that we can bring in more beneficial language. You don't have to do this unreasonable jump from being in sort of negative language or fear-based language to something that feels unreachable to you, but slowly coming into the willingness to see things differently, or the willingness to explore, or to experiment, or to try new things, or to see how it feels to say something different, or to speak even more compassionately to yourself, and watch how that changes the relationship with yourself and ultimately the relationship with everything else in your life. Okay. So I really wanted to come in here tonight and sort of passionately share about the power of our words and how important they are, right? And the words you use, especially when you're in communication with another person, are having an effect on their energy as well. The way they perceive you, the way they hear you, the way they understand you, the energy behind the words does so much in terms of communication, in terms of either repelling other people or drawing them in. Okay, so being conscious of the words that we use and the energy behind them is so, so, so important, especially if you're on a personal development journey, a spiritual development journey, and you really want to manifest new circumstances in your life.